Perfect. So thanks again for being here. So I know we have a little bio of you, but rather than just reading a bio, I like to have you guys introduce yourselves. So just tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, and a little bit about why you're here.
Jeremy asked us to come here.
That's the why you're here.
But I'm Nikki, and I plant things. We have a social media account that we started on May 1st last year, and it is all about planting, mostly like flower arrangements in pots, and then gardening and indoor plants as well.
Yeah. I'm Adam. I'm Nikki's husband. I'm just here for the pizza. I'm kind of, so role-wise, I'm kind of the behind-the-camera guy. So I do all the filming, I manage some of the social media, I edit the videos together. But I've been in essentially marketing and video, and my whole career for the past 10, 11 years has been trying to figure out how to go viral on social media, whether it's on the organic side or on the paid media side. I spent most of my career doing the paid media side. And when we decided to start this account, I was like, well, let me see if things translate from paid media over to organic social, and they did. They did really well. So it's kind of how we started, and our roles, kind of how we got here.
Yeah, great. So, and Nikki, with your background, did you grow up planting things from a young age, like helping in a family garden, or what kind of sparked your interest in plants?
Yeah, my dad is a gardener, a fantastic gardener, and so we always had a huge garden in the backyard. And I would go help him growing up, mostly just by eating stuff while he worked in the garden. So I would just be picking beans and eating rhubarb right off the plant. So I have always loved gardening. That's how I started, and then ever since we had like our own space, I've always just had a garden. So.
Yeah. Awesome. So it sounds like Adam had more kind of had a goal for a long time to have an account that goes viral. Did you always dream of having your own account go viral, or was it always for the businesses that you're working for to help?
Yeah, good question. Not really. I'd never really thought like I want to go make an account that goes viral and be influencers or anything like that. My career has just kind of led me into, like I said, it was mostly on the paid social side. Mm-hmm. So it was mostly making ads that would then run on social media that would then perform very well, and when they perform well, they go more viral because the business is pumping more money into them because it's making them money. So it's been fun because I've been able to work on big names, like some of the, I've randomly been recognized, like, I've seen you before. And like, yeah, it's this random company's ad. That's where you saw me, that sort of a thing. But as far as making our own stuff, it was never really an aspiration. Like, it wasn't like I want to go viral myself. It was more I just wanted to succeed at my career. When we kind of were thinking about starting an account, it was then it kind of clicked. Like, we have these skills, we kind of know how to do this. Why not try it for ourselves? And it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think so. Most of the audience here is people that are either have their own business or interested in starting a business, and so I think it's interesting. A lot of people that end up starting their own business are pulling things they've learned from their everyday career. So it's only been about a year since you've started this. When you started it, did you plan on doing it as a business at that point? Like, did you plan on it turning into an income stream, a revenue stream? Or was it more just like this was your hobby, you wanted to start documenting it and having a social media account for it?
To be honest, we always wanted it to earn us some money. I don't know, we have 4 kids and life is just busy, and so we were like, if we want to do this, we wanted to give us some return. So that was our goal starting out.
Yeah, it was one of those, like, we don't really necessarily have time to do additional things just for fun because we have 4 children. And so it was definitely a business venture when we started. But when we started, our goal was, because for the most part, most of the time, and even in my experience, like, it takes time to build a social media following. It usually doesn't happen very fast. And so when we started, we said, okay, we want to get to 10,000 followers in 6 months. We're going to work hard on it. We'll get to 10,000 followers in 6 months. And like, if we're not there by then we'll move on and try something else. But like, let's just try it. So that was kind of the goal. And then we were like, because we had spoken to a few people who had done well on social media. And they said, to be taken seriously really by any brand, you need at least like 10,000 followers. And then you can start maybe getting some brand deals. You can start working with companies that want to work with you to get their name out there. And so that was kind of the goal, give us 6 months and get there. And we got there way faster than we expected to. And yeah, that was the goal, and we got there. So
yeah. So did you so last month we had a business owner here that's very product based and selling products on Amazon, and so a big piece of that is doing some market research. So did you know going into it that there was this huge market for people that want to do some DIY plant things, or did you? Because it seems like a very niche market. So had you done some research to know like, yeah, there's a lot of potential here to have hundreds of thousands of followers?
I don't remember doing research. I think we just did it.
we just kind of did it. No, I'd say the only research that we did is was actually speaking with a creator. I guess I'll plug him. He actually lives in Canada but has a lot of Utah ties. It's Dusty Lumber Company.
Okay.
He's one of the biggest woodworkers on social media. He's a friend of my brother. And we ran into him randomly after my brother was telling me about the overlap of him and then what I do. And we ran into him down here at the golf, not Top Golf, Big Shots in St. George. He happened to be here on vacation with his family, and we ran into him.
Wow.
And got talking, and he recognized me because I look a lot like my brother. And I was telling him all the things because I also created an online course to teach paid social advertising. I was telling him like, hey, these have been my kind of struggles with that. This is where I've gone with that. And he's like, instead of trying to make an online course, why don't you just do it yourself? If you have the skills, if you have the talent, he's like, just pick a niche. And Nikki goes, well, I really like plants and flowers. And in that conversation, he was like, that would be great. That would be a really easy niche to take and kind of, it would explode, I'm sure, if you know what you're doing. And so that conversation, it was a random date night that we had, a rare date night that we had. And that conversation kind of gave us the nudge to be like, why not? Let's just try it. And it went from there.
Yeah. Okay, so then take us through the journey over the last year. So you mentioned you start out your goals to get 10,000 followers. I know I first heard about you guys because I think St. George News did an article about you because you launched a video and it went viral. So tell us kind of your experience with your first video that went viral, and then how fast you got to your initial goal of 10,000 followers, and kind of that road of getting there, kind of the excitement, the learning curve from first launching it, that process a little bit.
Well, to start out, I started recording and filming myself, just like with a selfie stick or something, and I was not good on camera, so that took a little while to learn. How fast did we get to 10,000? Or like that first month? Do you remember?
I think it was within it was about a month probably, if not a little bit faster, because our first video that we made and then actually posted on Instagram, it was one that we applied all of the editing techniques that I've kind of learned throughout my career, and it did well. It didn't go, I wouldn't consider it viral, but for having no following, starting from nothing, made a brand new, we didn't even use our personal accounts. We made a brand new account, 0 followers, and we posted it, and it got 12,000 views.
Wow.
And we were like, okay, I guess this is kind of going to work. And
that was your very first
video?
That
was our very first video. It was overnight. The 12,000 views was,
wow.
We made the video, we posted it, and overnight it was about 12,000 views. And it was very simple. It was, if you watch some of our videos, you'll see that a lot of them have some kind of a little hack or a little tip in them, which is something that we worked in later. The first video was literally just Nikki choosing flowers, planting them in a pot, and then presenting it. That was really it. But we did it, the filming and whatnot, in a way that was fairly engaging. And so we were like, there's something to this. And I think it was our third video that then was let's try adding in a little tip or a hack or something that's not as common. We know an editing technique that works. Let's then add in this tip or hack. Let's think of something. And we kind of brainstormed, and we had seen this we'd seen somewhere online where someone was trying to plant in a pot, and they took it out of their nursery pot, and they put it in the one pot, and they put soil on top of it, and they pulled it out, and it made a perfect little hole to put the plant in.
Yeah.
And we thought, well, we don't want to just copy somebody else, but what could we do with that? Because it's cool. And I think it was Nikki that was like, well, what if like we could use that in large pots to lay out and have the perfect holes in all the pots. We'd never seen anybody do that before.
Yeah.
So let's try it. And so we made that video, again, using the editing techniques and everything that we knew and learned would work. I think it was our third video. And within, I think it was 72 hours, it had like 3.2 million views. And getting shared, there were some huge creators that were duetting with it, where you can do a duet and they give their reaction to it. And that weekend was when we were like, all right, now we're on to something. And I think that's when that next week or two was when we went from maybe a couple thousand followers to 15, 20,000 just in 3 days.
Wow. So, and then, so with that, you mentioned you had used some experience for your career. Is that something that, do you think, like, could any business owner learn some of these little tips and tricks for their videos where you don't have to be an expert, where you've spent your career in marketing and video editing?
Absolutely.
To be able to do some of this?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, and I don't mean to like play, I made an online course for paid social because that's kind of been my expertise. It's like how you make paid ads that will perform. And when we went to switch to organic social, which is just growing without putting any money behind it, it was one of those things where I just had to do a little bit of conversion of like, okay, if this is catching attention in paid social, it probably catches attention here. And really it's looking at the layout of your video. I think most people who have ever made a video have heard of a hook. You need to have a good hook to get people to stop and pay attention. But then there are other little things that kind of go into it as well. Like that's going to be one of the more important things. But then like, why would someone keep watching after you've hooked them? You've gotten them to stop their scroll. Are you telling a story? I mean, storytelling is a principle as old as time, right? Are you telling a story with your video? Is there a promise for a payoff at the end? Like, are you hinting that something's going to be revealed at the end? And with our videos, it's pretty simple because you get to see the finished planter, right?
Right.
And like there are principles like that definitely that translated right over that I actually in my full-time job help companies with on a daily basis now. Of just little principles like that. But those are a few of the just kind of simple, like make sure you're hooking them, make sure you're telling a good story with it, and then a promise of the payoff, like why should I keep watching this video? A lot of people have heard of a hook, but really your video should have lots of hooks, lots of reasons to be like, oh, what's happening next? And then I guess the last thing that I would say is provide value in your videos. With one of the reasons that we started working in tips and hacks and stuff is because people are like, well, you're giving me free value in these videos. Well, yeah, I'm going to keep watching, and I'm going to share it with my friends. Yeah. And those are the sorts of things that then are the recipe for virality. Is a hook rate of people stopping to watch. Are they sticking around to keep watching it? How long, like the algorithms pay attention to how long you watch. So how long are they watching your video? And then are they engaging? Are they commenting? Are they liking it? Are they sharing it with their friends? And then you get your algorithm to just, if you get that recipe going, it just gets pushed to everybody because they think people like this video, we're going to show it to everyone.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so that's still kind of the framework, the questions you're asking yourself as you're planning new videos and new content. Yeah. Is that same framework, those same questions of what are we providing?
Most of the videos that we make, like the entire layout of our channel, if you've watched a lot of them, is almost every video that we've made that's actually gone viral in the millions of views, it's got the same layout. Sometimes it's different planters, different flowers, but it's the same layout where you're telling a story of like, I'm using a tip to create this planter, this whatever, plant creation per se. And in the end, it gets revealed and that's it. So the layout of our channel is kind of built around that. So we don't necessarily have to ask that question every time because it's already kind of built into our video structure, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so I feel like even I used to kind of have this like almost perception of to go viral, you almost have to be kind of lucky, but the more I've learned, it sounds like more like, no, there's like a science to it, and you've proven that by, starting this account. So it's been less than a year now. You're almost at a year mark. So fast forward to today, how many followers are you at now? And can you speak to a little bit of the views you've had on some of your videos?
Nikki told me last night we needed to count up our numbers so that we'd be prepared, and I forgot to do it.
You can give rough estimate.
Last time I checked, we were at 1,060,000.
And that's combined between all platforms. So we're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts. Well, YouTube, but most of our videos are Shorts.
And so between all of those, it's
Combined.
well over a million followers now.
Well over a million, yeah.
Awesome. And then I know you've had multiple videos go over 10 million views. Do you know beforehand which videos are gonna really go viral?
He can tell.
Yeah.
Usually. I don't.
Sometimes maybe a surprise here and
it's
there.
not. It's not perfect. Well, I think the surprise is usually when it doesn't. I'm like, this is a great idea. This is a great video. This is gonna do well, and then it flops for some reason, and I'm like, why did that flop?
Yeah.
But it's been a learning experience because the other, I guess, kind of big thing with it is when we have that kind of intuition, like this is a good idea, we know it's going to do well, we've also learned that you don't just give up on it. It's one of the things I told you back there when we were talking is we made a video near the beginning when we had a smaller following, probably 30 or 40,000 followers, of a flower tower where there's a stake in the ground and you have terracotta pots that lean one way and then lean the other, and it kind of makes this tower. It's not our original idea. We saw it somewhere on Pinterest, and we were like, we could make a good video doing that and creating that. And so we did, and I was like, this is like, people are going to resonate with this. I know it's going to be a good video. And we posted it, and it got maybe 40 or 50,000 views, which at the time was pretty good. It's decent.
Like not a complete flop for you.
Right. But I was like, I know this video has viral potential. I do. And so 6 months later, as we had a baby and going through some other, personal stuff, we weren't filming very much. And I was like, I bet that I could go back through our old footage, because we filmed so much at the beginning, and make some new videos. And I found that video and I was like, this can go viral. I know it can go viral. So all I did is I went through, and it was probably 15 minutes of editing, just changed a few small things about it and reposted the same video with like 3 changes. I think the changes were we got to the building of the creation faster. In the first one, we had like a set out where we set out all of our materials and supplies. We took that out, and then we just got right to the building of this little plant creation. And then at the end, we showed the payoff for longer. We showed the creation, more shots of it, more shots of kind of the completed project. And that video, the original one we posted, like I said, 30, 40,000 views probably. That video, I think right now has about 15 million views. Same video, 15 minutes of editing, just changing a few small things.
That's amazing. And those are kind of things, so some principles you've learned from your career, but also just as you've made more and more videos over the last year, incorporating some of those.
Yeah, I mean, applying it specifically to our account, because and it's the same thing with businesses. I could go to a client in my day job and say, I know a lot about this stuff, but your business is unique. So it's going to take a little bit of time to learn specifically what resonates with your audience from your specific business.
Right. Yeah. Okay. It's amazing. Just as he shared that story with me before, to go from 30, 40,000 followers and then essentially the same video with a few small tweaks, 15 minutes of editing, and it turns into millions and millions of views. So yeah, that's amazing. So can you speak to some of the challenges that you've faced with this business? I know you've mentioned you've had to pivot a little bit at the very beginning, you're making videos daily, to where now as your family grows, you're getting busier and busier. You still have your full-time job. Can you speak to a little bit of how you've pivoted and how you still are ensuring success as you're moving forward, that you're still growing even though you've pivoted to save yourself some time? I know that was part of it too with the video editing. But.
Yeah, so at the beginning, just to paint the picture a little bit, we were filming every single day. We would put the kids to bed, have a full day of parenting, full day of work, dinner time, we put the kids to bed, we would film and then edit and post that night. So was that like 2 to 3 hours a night we were doing?
2 to 3 hours a night, yeah.
Every single day. And I think it was like 30 to 40 days that we did that straight. And we saw tons of growth, but I just ended up crying. I was like, I can't do this anymore. We were just so tired, and it just was not sustainable. So we have learned how to be really efficient with our time. We'll brainstorm, like usually we film on the weekends now, just 1 day a week. And we brainstorm and come up with like a plan, and we say, okay, we're gonna do 2 videos, and this is exactly what we're doing. We're doing this hack, we're using these supplies. I need to go get these flowers. So I'll do that either the morning of, the day before, and then we go and we film like 2 to 3 videos in one session. So it's a lot more manageable, and it's been really helpful. I don't cry as much anymore. So.
Speaking to that, we had him. I still remember the moment. Like we laid, both of us. We got done filming one day. We laid down on our bedroom floor. Why wouldn't we lay on the bed? I don't know. We laid on the floor, and Nikki was crying, and I was just exhausted because it was a hot day in St. George. It was like we've gone 40 days straight making videos every day, literally doing nothing besides full-time job, 3 hours after my job, at least for me. She's with the kids all day, but 3 hours with the kids and eating dinner, putting them to bed, editing and filming until we go to sleep, and that was it. It was like we just hit burnout. Yeah. But now we're at the point where, like she said, doing it on weekends, but also to the point of like, we get everything ready. We know exactly, we have like filming stations. Like if we're doing 3 videos that day, it's like, let's set up this video right here in our backyard. This video is going to be over here. Get everything in place while we have the kids with us. And then it's like, okay, it's filming time. Kids, let's watch a movie. And we turn on a movie for the kids, do it during the nap time for the little ones, and we know we have like a 2-hour window where the kids are watching a movie and the little ones are napping, and we knock out 3 videos. Well, we don't edit all of them, but we film those. And so it's more efficient and much more sustainable than what we were doing initially.
Yeah, that's amazing to see how you've adapted and that you are so much more efficient now. I can only imagine, it's almost like another full-time job kids are another full-time job, and then having to do all the editing and everything too is a lot. So, what about I noticed you're very engaging with your audience on most of the comments you're responding to. Can you speak a little bit to the importance of that? And maybe from what I've seen, it's all been positive, but if you've had negative comments or things like that, how you've dealt with those, and how you can, I'm sure, I feel like, I don't know Nikki that well, but I feel like you would take it personally. So how you can try and overstep those and overcome some of those negative. I feel like every social media account, you always have people that are going to be negative, and so how you deal with some of those.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm a pretty private person, and so it freaks me out to know that so many people are seeing my face, and like our ideas are tied to me. I'm not telling everyone that they should do those things. We're just kind of showing new ways to plant and stuff, but everyone has an opinion, and we have gotten some pretty nasty comments, which makes me grateful that we didn't choose something more controversial than planting flowers. But you're right. I think the main thing is just not taking it personally, and sometimes I have to tell Adam, like, I am not looking at comments today because I need to take a step back and be nice to myself for a little bit, because there are a lot of not so nice people.
We've also learned with certain things that we do in the video, and this is also a lesson if you're like, as far as applying to business, a little bit of controversy isn't a bad thing if you're trying to go viral. Yeah.
Comments are one of the engagement things that you're looking for.
So if they're arguing back and forth in the comments.
And that's why we try to respond, at least for like the first 24 hours, we try to respond and say, oh, thank you so much, I'm so glad you liked it, or I hope you can use it. We try to respond to as many comments as we can in the first 24 hours, because that also boosts the video.
Right. Yeah. So, and what about so I know just recently you've tested out posting some more personal stuff. Can you speak to that impact? Has it had a large impact for you?
I think it strengthens relationships for sure. It's been really cool to connect with people on a more personal basis. I don't know that it's as viral as our other videos, but people feel connected to us now, and there's a relationship there.
Yeah, and I would say, as far as like applying that to a business, And like another account, let's say that they're trying to grow a following, is like stick more to your niche until it's very established. Because I've gotten that question before, is like, well, can I have an account where I'm sharing all my personal stuff and then sharing like stuff in my niche or my business? And I'm like, well, obviously, like if you're a celebrity, everyone wants to know what you're doing with every moment of your life. So like that's different. But if you're developing a niche, stick to it until it is very well established that like this is what you do. And because when people go to your account, go to your page, they're going to follow you. That usually they're going to see one of your videos somewhere, and they're going to think this is really cool. Usually one of your most viral videos. Then they're going to go to your page, and if they go to your page and they see a bunch of stuff that's nothing like what you went viral for, they're going to be like, I don't know if I want to follow this person. They just happen to have one video I like. But if they see a bunch of stuff related to that, they're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to go follow this person because I want to hear everything they have. I want to hear all of this. So make sure that's established. And then, as Nikki said, to make more of a like connection, a personal connection, then you can start sharing the personal stuff. But don't do it too early until it's well known what your page is representing and showing.
Right.
One thing that we also do is there's different types of videos on all the platforms. And so like our niche things, we usually do reels, right, for Instagram and Facebook. And YouTube Shorts. And so those are like our dedicated videos that are specific flowers or gardening or whatever. And then stories are usually where I get more personal. Sometimes we do like image posts with personal things, and those go over pretty well. But usually I share like my day-to-day stuff as like a journal on my story.
Yeah, because those are only going to be around for 24 hours. You share it on your story, it's there for 24 hours for people to see, and then it's gone. And so like if people want to be connecting with you on a personal level and they're not worried about your, just like your niche specifically, that's where they can do it. They watch your stories, and you'll get, as you share in your stories, we've built up our views on our stories too, with more personal stuff. But when you're thinking about building a following, it's kind of a good rule of thumb. Is like your page, your reels should be your niche. Your stories is more of your personal journal. Engage personally with your followers.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Can you speak a little bit to the kind of the image of your account? So I promise this is Adam's words, but he says that Nikki is the pretty face of the video, and then he's the behind the scenes guy. So can you speak to that a little bit of, like, are you, I'm assuming a lot of times it'll be you responding to comments while Nikki's helping with the kids or things like that, but then you're essentially pretending to be her to kind of keep that face of the business. Is that right?
Frequently, and I get chastised for typos.
She's like, don't make me look bad.
I'll name, because people are like, what plant did you use, or what, and I'll put it in. She's like, no, that's not that right plant. Dang it.
Well, it reflects on me.
It does.
It's really tied to me.
It is.
I don't make typos.
So if there's a typo, we know it was Adam responding.
Bingo. No, it's true. I very often have had to like take on this, like, okay, how would Nikki respond to this? And we even at the very beginning we agreed that the way that we're going to respond, like we kind of agreed on a tone of how we're going to respond to comments, because we get those nasty comments. We knew we would.
Right.
And usually we respond with thanks for sharing your opinion and a little smiley face. And I guess the power in not getting defensive is Nikki's now become known, like part of the draw to our page is this positivity persona of like, we're not here to fight with people, and like if you want to share your opinion, you're welcome to share your opinion. We're not going to come at you just for saying like, I wouldn't have planted that like that. Like, that's okay. You don't have to plant it like this. We're just sharing our ideas.
Yeah.
And then on even more beyond that, then you're following, especially there's probably 20 or 30 people, we may even be able to name their handles, because they're engaging on everything we create. They come to our defense. So we're not even fighting in the comments with anybody. They're doing it, right?
You.
Yeah. But it's very much like a persona that we kind of agreed on, like we're going to stay positive in these comments. And so typos aside, I feel like I do an okay job.
Yeah. So now it's kind of become like you're protecting like the identity of the business at that point. Awesome. So you mentioned when you first started, your goal was to get to 10,000 followers. You obviously beat that. Your 6-month goal, you beat that by a long shot. So with where you're at today, do you have specific growth goals, and do you have like a strategic plan or anything in place to try and reach those goals?
We're probably a really bad example.
Well, I know it's probably hard to plan. This like starting, it's like, okay, 10,000 is the threshold that you've heard from other influencers.
Yeah.
So are there still other thresholds that it's like once you get to this point, you can do X, Y, Z, or?
I think at the beginning it was 10,000, and then 100,000, and then 1 million. Those were kind of like the big mile markers, kind of.
Uh-huh.
Now that we're above that, we still are trying to continue growing, but the focus is, I think, less on like follower count and more making connections with like brands and companies and brainstorming. We would love to have a product that we personally sell with our business someday. So that's kind of our goal now, is trying to figure out something that we can tie directly and sell personally.
Yeah, it's monetization in general with this is something that, like, as I said, we came into it with some expertise in the video virality field, but monetization of that is not something that either of us were experts in when we started this. And so we're still figuring out how to monetize, whether it's at the beginning. And if you've ever done influencer marketing, it's kind of a wild, wild west. You get quotes from a few different influencers, and they might be drastically different with the same size following, just because there's not really like a set standard as far as how much you charge for types of videos. So like, we've figured out how to get paid on views, and that's been great. We've gotten paid on the videos that go viral, we make money on. But then also, we've done quite a few brand deals, and some of them have gone really well, and some of them haven't gone as well, and it's all a learning process. Yeah. But as Nikki said, like, we're still open. Like, right now I'm still trying to. I've been trying to work with a consultant to be like, we have 1 million followers, but like, you'd think it would be like, it's someone with 1 million followers, you picture them and be like, you're living in wherever the heck you want to live with 3 mansions, and and that's not, like, we're very much real people. I still work a full-time job with an expertise in making videos that go viral, but still learning how to really monetize it beyond just like views and the few brand deals. So if you have any connections, we're open to that. But yeah, it's still a learning process for us. So I think, as Nikki said, growth is still something we want to do, but learning how to make more money off of the growth we've already created is kind of more of our focus right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So expanding into products and brands. Cool. So you've touched on this a little bit already, and this is probably more a question for Adam, but can you just give us a little bit more insight to some of the algorithms, and are they different for different platforms? Like, are there certain videos that it's like, okay, this one will go viral on TikTok, but it probably won't be as much of a hit on Facebook? And just some of the different algorithms and how the comments, the saves, the likes, how that plays into videos.
And did you have anything to say before? I know I talk a lot, so.
No?
Okay. So the easiest thing that I tell everybody who's asked me about this is just simply replace the word algorithm with audience. Because people are like, oh, the algorithm hates me, or how do you hack the algorithm? Be like, just replace the word audience and you'll get a little more insight. Your audience may not hate you, but you're not getting views because the content that you're putting out there isn't resonating with your audience. Mm-hmm. And so, like, yes, as we talked about a little bit before, there are things within the algorithm that the algorithm reads, but really it's mapping back to human psychology and sales psychology, where you think about the companies like TikTok, Meta, YouTube, Google. The biggest, most well-funded companies in the world have the smartest brains being paid the most money to figure out how to put the right content in front of the right people. That's what the algorithm is. And there's a big play of human psychology in that. And so when you think I want to hack the algorithm, there isn't a hack besides create content that people want to see. And so, like, the 3 big indicators is going to be, like, do they stop to watch it? So, like, are people, like, watching your video? How long are they watching it, and are they engaging? Are they engaging with it? When I say that, I mean likes, comments, shares. If you have the trifecta of those 3 things, are they stopping? Are they watching most of your video? And are they engaging with it? It's going to go viral almost every single time. The other thing to think about is your audience in regards to how many people want to see this content. For you mentioned we've shared a few personal things, and we've had some personal things that we've shared that have gotten way better engagement rates than some of our most viral videos. But the audience for that personal thing is a much smaller audience than like people who like plants, right?
Yeah.
So that's another thing to kind of pay attention to. But is there a hack for the algorithm? No, there's not. It's, again, algorithm, just replace it with the word audience, and that's going to tell you most of the things you need to know.
Yeah, that's great. I'd never thought about it that way or heard that, so that's great advice. So would you say that the filming of the content, like what video footage you're getting, is more important, or the editing is more important?
I don't know that there's an answer to that. They're both very important.
Yeah.
I couldn't, like, as much as I've spent my career doing, I couldn't do this without Nikki. Like, people are like, oh, what percentage of you do what? I mean, it's 50-50. I could not do what Nikki does, just like Nikki hasn't spent her whole career doing what I do.
Right.
So every little part plays into it. The editing is really important, and as I mentioned earlier with that video that had less views and then got, I don't know what times, the 15 million views, that was editing, but initially the filming of it played a big role. There are definitely things that we do in filming our content that we know will contribute to going viral. There's little things that people don't think of and maybe even have heard of, but think of are cliche, but like, a lot of you probably heard the phrase ASMR, like the sounds of your video. If you watch a lot of our videos, sometimes we don't even put music behind it. A lot of times we do. Sometimes we don't, just because also music licensing is kind of a pain, but you'll hear the sound of taking a plant out of a pot and breaking up the roots, and you hear the sound of scooping dirt, and like when I'm editing, I crank that sound up. It's not an accident. That's also something that we kind of learned from the guy I told you about, Dusty Lumber Company. His is woodworking videos, but it's ASMR woodworking videos. That's what it is. It's one of the things that we use that it just resonates with people. People love to kind of hear the sounds of things while they're watching the video. That's just one of them. So to answer your question, I don't think that there's like a editing versus filming is better. Like, both kind of have to be there.
Like, you've got to have the good content, but obviously editing can make all the difference. And
yeah, I don't know. Anything else on that? Cool.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm going to ask you just a couple more questions, and then I want to make sure we leave time for questions from the audience too. But it's always great to hear about all the successes, and it's amazing too that your business, I feel like, took off right from the beginning. I feel like most of us, our businesses are a little slower getting started. But I think it's also important for everybody to understand the challenges you face when starting a business. So can you talk about any failures you've had or just any challenges that you've had as you've started this business? And I know it's still relatively new, you're almost a year, but I'm sure you've had some ups and downs throughout the last year.
Even before that, we've always been looking for something. We've been married 10 years, and I feel like the whole time we were looking for something that we could do kind of on the side. So we've had lots of failures even before starting this. Like, I started a wreath business, but it had to do with flowers, so I was prepping. I watched dogs and did so many other things, and they just never took off. And so we just kept having to try new things. This one, I don't know, it worked for us, but there were a lot of failures before that. There also were a couple failures at the beginning as we were learning. Like Adam said, music is a huge monster. The licensing part, so we had one of our biggest videos at the beginning get like 60 million views, and the music had some copyright on it, so we didn't get paid for it, and we ended up having to take that video down, which was so painful.
It was so painful.
Yeah, especially early on, like, that's devastating. You finally have one take off.
It was bad. So that was probably one of our biggest failures, I think.
To this day, we still don't have a video with 60 million views on one platform, because that was on Facebook, and it had about 60 million views on Facebook. And we were taunting that video to any brand we approached, like, check this out, we got 60 million views. I mean, that's Mr. Beast numbers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we were like, we have to take this thing down because it's causing issues with our account. We can't monetize, given, like I said, it was early on, or like Nikki said, but I don't know exactly how much money that cost us, but it was in the tens of thousands of dollars because had we been paid for it, for all those views, the way that it was monetized. But yeah, it was painful to find that out and be like, oh, and we took it down, we changed the music, we reposted the video, it went viral again, but not as viral because a lot of people had already seen it.
Yeah.
So it still made us money, but it's lesson learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, still all kinds of challenges like that. I think if I remember right too, when I first met you guys, you also told me about, there was one that I think you had cross-posted it, but it went, when you put it on another platform, it still had like the Facebook logo on it. And okay, so same thing one. There, where you couldn't claim it because it had the other platform.
There's little things, and if you're doing social media, there's little things like that. Like each platform likes to be independent to their platform, and they are competitors. Mm-hmm. So like the example was, it was partially music, but it was also partially that it had the TikTok watermark on the video. We posted it on TikTok, and we just were like, we had an app that was like, let's cross-post. I don't remember if we did it. We just took that video. We liked the music from it. It looked good. Just out of convenience, not knowing. Right. Just posted the same video on Facebook, but it had the TikTok watermark. That's the one that went 60 million views. And then come to find out, like, you can't monetize this because it has a TikTok watermark on it, and you're using video or music that's licensed for TikTok, not licensed for Facebook.
So that was the...
So, and it's going to be the same thing if you post something on YouTube with an Instagram logo on it, and their automatic detection sees that. Sometimes it misses it, but it sees the watermark from another platform on those videos, it's going to suppress it. And it's like either penalize you for it in some way, make it so less people see it. They're competitors.
Yeah. Okay. So if you're doing social media, don't learn from there. Yeah. There's there. So, okay. So just one final question before we open it up to the audience. So as I mentioned before, most of the audience either has their own business or they're interested in starting their own business at some point. So is there one key piece of advice that you feel like you could give them that might be able to be applied across many industries, many different types of businesses, something that they can take away and apply in their own businesses?
For me, I would probably say make sure it's something you enjoy, because I would not have kept going if I didn't enjoy it. And with that, like, taking breaks is important too, to avoid that burnout. If you're miserable, it's going to be so much harder to, I think, find success and keep going. So that's what I would say.
Even though you love it, you don't want to be doing it 3 hours every single night.
Yeah. And I mean, even with that, it's as much as, and in any industry, you look at a different career and you're like, oh, maybe that's such an easier job. I always looked at influencers or content creators and like, oh, how easy of a job to just, film yourself once a day, post it up, millions of people are like, hey, to make a real social media following, it takes a lot of work. And so once we were in it, we were like, this is really hard. It's a good thing you really enjoy planting flowers because it's a lot of work, a lot more than we expected it to be, to consistently be able to build a following like this. So yeah, I think my other thing, and this is something that I apply in my day job career and with this, is test it. That's kind of my phrase, test it. If you have an idea and you think it'll work, the only way that you're going to know if it works is by testing it. Yeah. But when you do test it, try to get some kind of data to show you if it's working or not. Get feedback. Like, don't just throw it out there and I tested it, but like you don't know if it worked or not. Try to get some kind of feedback. Because I do creative direction, performance creative direction for a lot of companies. And even a lower level designer or an intern in college will say, hey, I have an idea for a video, an ad that will do this. And my answer is always test it. Let's see if it works. Like, let's apply the principles we know to it. We know stuff that works, but like test it. And sometimes it turns out to be a crazy good idea that makes you lots of money.
Yeah.
And that can apply not only to videos, but to any business idea. If you have a business idea, or even a business you already have, but you're like, maybe if I tried it in a different way, test it, see if it works. that's how you figure out what works.
Yeah, that's great. It's cool to see that works in your industry too. If you're developing a product, there's a product validation stage. You have to make sure it's a product that people actually want, that they'll use. And yeah, I think that's great because it's great to see like you said, people don't always realize how much work it is, or like previously I thought you have to just be pretty lucky to go viral, but to see the intentionality behind it, the amount of hours that you guys put in, and all the work that goes into. Even still, you have millions of followers now, but it still takes a lot of work to constantly be creating content and have these high quality videos that you're putting out. So yeah, thank you. That's amazing. Well, let's give a round of applause for Adam and Nikki.